Hello, this is Lynn Smith from Elite Real Estate Management. We are a division of JJC Management and Holdings with corporate offices in Virginia Beach. The purpose of this video is to review with you some information on how we do business as property managers and what you should expect from us as a homeowner or an investor. Because we are property management specialists, we do not engage in any resale activity but focus all of our attention on the needs of our clients and tenants and taking care of our rental properties. We service all 7 cities of the Hampton Roads and Tidewater area and have offices in Western Branch on Raintree Road, Omni Boulevard in Newport News, and our corporate offices and sales office in Columbus Center in Virginia Beach, which is very close to the Pembroke Mall. Our offices are fully staffed to respond to you in a very timely fashion. As a property owner or an investor, it's important to you to know what it costs you to have a professional manage your property. We try to keep that fairly simple. Our management fee for the first year is 10%. The second year, the management fee will drop to 9%, and the third year, the fee will drop to 8%. If a new tenant takes possession of the home, that does not mean that the management fee goes back up to 10%. It stays at the 8% level for as long as you're our client, which is our way of saying thank you for your patronage. There is a $100 listing fee every time we execute a new lease with a new tenant. This covers our cost in contract negotiation, advertising, inspections, and getting the tenant set up in the new property. We charge all direct costs for any required maintenance of the home, and maintenance will be covered a little bit further in the program. And we also charge direct costs for any legal and court costs, which again is covered also a little bit further on. Okay, now that we know what it costs to have a property manager, let's talk a little bit about the next key factor, which is advertising. It's important to get a good and qualified tenant into your home as quickly as possible. Here's a true story. I had a lady from Washington State give me a call. She had a condominium in Chesapeake and had been on the market for about 7 months with no activity whatsoever. She was becoming a little disillusioned with her current property manager and asked me if I thought I could do any better, and of course I said I probably could. I took a look at the advertising and found that there was none. I checked on the MLS and found the property had been listed there, but the listing expired about 3 months before. The only advertising I could find for this place was a sign in the window, and you had to be in the parking lot sitting in front of the place before you could see that. She let the property manager go, hired us. We put an advertising package together in a day and had the place rented within 5 days and occupied within 15. And I think there's a couple things to be learned here. One, kind of highlights the fact that advertising is definitely important. And two, the other thing is if you're going to hire a property manager, hire a property manager who does property management as a full time. The agent that she had was a resale agent, managed about 3 or 4 properties. Key focus was on resale, not on property management, and his total inattention to this property cost her about $11,000 in lost rental income. I believe in doing virtual tours for rental properties just like I would if I was going to be advertising a home for sale. Virtual tours give great perspective to the way the house is laid out and the neighborhood, and tenants coming in from out of the country or out of state and have no idea what the neighborhood looks like find virtual tours to be very, very helpful. The local MLS listing is a key factor in advertising the property because they have reciprocity or agreements with other websites. The listing will spider out from the MLS to many other sites, including every other real estate agent that has a website. Because our town has a lot of military, it's about 80% of our rentals, in fact, go to military folks. The military has a website called AHRN, which is a great site. It's available to military members from every branch of the service and can be viewed worldwide. I advertise on this and I find it to be very successful. Zillow, Trulia are enhanced sites on Realtor.com. Homes.com, Military by Owner, and even Craigslist are great sites to advertise on, and we advertise on all these and many others. As an owner, if you want to check to see what the availability is and the success of your advertising for a rental property, after the property's been on the market for about a week, go to Google and enter in the address of the rental property and see how many websites this pops up on. And you should find it about 13 of them. If it's not, maybe the advertising isn't being as effective as it could be. Okay, we've done a great job in advertising. We've got bushel baskets full of applications rolling in. So how are we going to select and qualify a proper and good tenant? Well, first thing we're going to do is run a Tri-Merge credit report. Tri-Merge credit reports don't tell you everything, but they will give you an idea of how responsible the tenant is in paying their bills and how debt laden they may be. We're going to check with their employer to make sure that the income that they're reporting to us is accurate and try to get a feel for how secure their job is. Debt to income ratio analysis is an important part of qualifying any tenant in that we see, if one, if they can afford the property, and two, are they going to have any money left over at the end of the month to take care of any unforeseen contingencies. Recommendations from past landlords important. The current landlord they live in may give us a favorable recommendation because one, he wants to get rid of the tenant, and or the two, he's afraid that maybe they'll come back against him because he's made negative comments against them. But if we go back to the landlord before him, he'll almost always give us an accurate and favorable or negative recommendation that is accurate. We look at civil and criminal backgrounds. Credit reports, even though there's a section there about court records, will not always tell you everything about their past. We try to check all 7 cities of the Hampton Roads area to see if they've got any unreported civil or criminal activity. One of the things we ask a tenant is, have they ever been evicted? Do they have any kind of outstanding civil judgments against them for housing related offenses? If they say no, and we go back and we check and find out that yes, they were evicted, and yes, there is a judgment against them for unpaid rent, that's an indication of their character, and that will result in an automatic rejection. All applicants are considered in strict compliance with Virginia's Fair Housing Guidelines. However, an applicant with a felony conviction for a drug-related crime, a sexually related crime, or a violent crime will not be considered for any of our rentals. Applicants who have been evicted or have any kind of housing-related outstanding judgments will also be rejected. I think that the only thing that's worse than a vacant house is a house is occupied by a non-paying or lousy tenant. Okay, we have advertised well, we've got a great tenant, and now the cash is starting to flow, so how do we handle funds received through property rentals? Rent is always due on the first day of the month. There is a 5-day grace period, and tenants may pay in person at any of our offices, mail in the rent payment, or use our online portal to set up automatic rent payments. They can also pay with bill pay or, if they're military, through allotments. We pay our vendors twice monthly, on the 10th and the 25th of every month. And owner proceeds are dispersed via ACH or direct deposit into the bank account of their choice. Owner's proceeds are dispersed between the 10th and the 15th of every month. Disbursement dates are dependent upon the date that the rent is received and weekends and holidays. We try to get the money to you as fast as we can and still stay within state guidelines for maintaining funds in our escrow accounts. One of the concerns that every owner, and especially an absentee owner, has is, how do I as an owner know that my house is being cared for properly? We do property inspections every 90 days. I think that waiting 6 months or a year to inspect a property is just too long. There's too many things that can go wrong. Stopping in for a few minutes at 90-day intervals, verifying with the tenant that their contact information hasn't changed, their employment information hasn't changed, they haven't moved in any new tenants that aren't on the lease, uh, have they picked up a dog or something that's not authorized, are they smoking in the property, and are they taking care of the place? We try to explain very carefully to tenants when they take possession of the house what our expectations are as property managers in relationship to how we want them to maintain the property. If even though they're paying their rent on time, if they're not taking care of the place, that's are still is grounds for eviction. We have an extensive list of vendors we use that are licensed and insured, as well as have a proven track record with us for honesty, fair pricing, quality of the repair work, and timeliness of getting the repair work done. In my past, I had a mechanical company in Michigan, and we specialized in heating, cooling, refrigeration, electrical, and plumbing. I have a very good working knowledge of every system in your home, and it's very difficult for a vendor to overcharge me or pull a wool over my eyes on an unnecessary repair. They all know that, and it definitely keeps it keeps them on track and honest. We also always make it a policy to call, text, or email the owner to advise them of a problem that's occurred in the house and what our recommendations are as to the best course of action to the effect of the repair. If the repair is over $300, which is getting easier to have happen all the time, we will always get your authorization before moving ahead with that repair. Repairs under $300, we'll go ahead and take care of it and then bill you for it later. The only time that we would deviate from this is in the event of a catastrophic failure. Tree falls on the house, wind damage, hurricane, tornadoes, fire. We will do whatever is necessary to protect the property and protect the tenant. If we can't get a hold of you, we're still going to go ahead and proceed to protect the property. Another big concern that owners always have is there an easy way for me as an owner to keep track of what's going on with my account? And the answer to that would be absolutely. Every owner and tenant is issued a username and password and can access our management website 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you sign your agreement with us, we enter you into our system. You'll be sent an email with a username and temporary password. Username, of course, is going to be your email address, and the password is whatever you want to make it. From that point on, you can access our website 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from anywhere. You can see complete account ledgers for both you and the tenant. You can pull several different types of reports, including the general ledger. You can download copies of leases or management agreements. You can download copies of our inspections. You can download paid invoices that pertain to your property. You can download copies of work orders or even send us a message. And a little bit more about work orders. We encourage our tenants, if they do have a problem, to put it in writing by means of a work order request. That way we have a written record of a problem, when it was discovered, and when it was handled. We review our work orders every day, and work orders in writing are much preferable to just telling us and telling us over the phone. You can do all this from anywhere. The use of the online websites is really something that's fairly new with property management firms. There's still quite a few companies out there that don't use this. I found that oh, about 7 or 8 years ago, we finally found a company that I thought did a real good job for this, and we've used it ever since. But it saves a lot of time for the owners and tenants, and is a good working system. I've been very happy with it. What happens if a tenant doesn't pay their rent on time? Sometimes even the best qualified tenants can have something go wrong which is going to affect their ability to meet their obligations. And as much as I can understand, what a tenant's predicament might be, we still represent the interests of the owner, and we take a pretty firm stand on rental obligations. Your mortgage payment is due on the first, and the mortgage company's not going to listen to any excuses from you as to why they don't have their money. Rents are due on the first day of the month. There is a 5-day grace period, but on the sixth day of the month, we issue a 5-day pay or quit notice to the tenant. This is required by the state of Virginia before we can start the eviction process. We also send at that time a notice to the owner saying, hey, the tenant hasn't paid their rent and we are starting the eviction process. If we haven't received the rent by the 12th day of the month, or the 14th depending on weekends and holidays, we file an unlawful detainer with the court of jurisdiction for that property. About 3 weeks after it's filed, we have our court date, and we will go for the judgment to regain possession of the property. The judge will normally give a tenant 10 days to vacate from the date of judgment. If the tenant has not vacated the property within that 10 days, we then have to file a writ of possession with the sheriff. And normally it takes him about 10 days to serve the eviction and remove the tenants from the property. We do what's called a lockout, where we have a locksmith and the sheriff go with us to the property. The sheriff removes the tenants. We change the locks, and from that point, the tenant would have 24 hours under our supervision to remove their possessions. If the owner decides that they want to garnish the wages from that point, they would have to hire an attorney, as we don't have legal authority to do garnishments. One other thing I want to mention about unlawful detainers: if we go ahead and do the filing for an unlawful detainer, I recommend to the tenant or the owner that even if the tenant has paid in full before the court date, that we go ahead and still get that judgment against them. A writ of unlawful detainer is good for a year. So if they get in trouble again, we can file a writ of possession, and within 10 days of that filing, we can have the tenant removed from the property. It's which can save us about, well, it saves us about 3 weeks. So it's a good alternative to keep the tenant on their toes and keep them paying their rent on time. This completes our video, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to view this video. I think that property management is an interesting and challenging field, and it takes a lot of training and experience to see and address all the issues that can arise and get it done in a timely manner. Not a lot of my fellow realtors choose to do this as a full-time profession, but I personally enjoy it, and I enjoy the challenges of the interaction with my clients and tenants. Some days I enjoy it a little more than others, but the video touches on the most asked questions on how we do business, but I would really enjoy an opportunity to go into our procedures in greater depth with you. If you would, feel free to give me a call on my direct line at 757-237-6786. If for some reason I don't answer, please leave a message, or if you have the time, leave me a text message, and I kind of activates my phone and I can get back to people very quickly that way. I want to thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day, and the best of luck with any of your rental needs.